one very, very unfortunate misclick at his third, where he could have killed a couple of banelings. Instead, he moved commanded. He ran headfirst into the banelings, and the game just ended there. It should have never, ever ended. And I was in Discord with him 2 days later. I was like, you know, Gabe, what do you make of this series? I feel like you didn't play that good. Or like, it could have been better, right? He's like, it was fine. I was like, come on, Gabe. Like, you literally ran Marines at the base. He's like, it was fine up to that point. I was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, but that's kind of what I mean. Anyway, hopefully we just have a banger of a best of 5 on our hands in the top right side of 2K Atmosphere. Once more, we're looking at the main base of our German Terran that's been representing Mouse Sports for all these years. It is HeRoMaRiNE.
And of course, in the bottom left-hand corner, the blue Zerg from ENCE Esports is Serral.
Gabe recently moved, and I am actually very familiar with the place where he lives right now, because that is where an old friend of mine used to live in Cologne, and that is a special place. This is a super irrelevant story, but from that desk, great players in the history of StarCraft 2 have played from that desk. MC has played from it, Scarlet has played from it, I think Bomber has played from it, Innovation, Harstem, so many great players have sat there. I believe that desk and that apartment is blessed.
So it's about the desk in the apartment now, is it?
Mate, he's gonna reach levels that you've never seen before.
I'm ready for it. Man, you know this, it's so weird when someone like moves or like the background changes. I'm like, it feels like almost so out of place, especially someone you've seen in somewhere for like a long time. That's the one thing that I thought, like if Serral suddenly was somewhere else other than, you know, with his trophies in the background, the little tiny doors.
Well, he was at one place, and we were like, oh my goodness, where is he? And he was like in a little holiday house somewhere in Finland.
Yeah, it's really weird, right? It's like, what happened?
You guys are wondering, Gabe is still living in Cologne. He's pretty much living in the heart of Cologne right now. The Muslim and I have also had a lot of fun nights in that place where we just played some games. A lovely little setup, TV a little bit further towards the right, where people can watch, you know, one person plays, the other guys are watching on the couch. It's always been super fun, and I hope that Gabe just feels at home already and that he's ready to show us his A-game. Like I said, last time they played, they also started off on this map. I really loved the start. Everything up to that misclick with the Marines running into the banelings. I thought it was going totally fine for Gabe. Let's see if he does that again, like a 10-12 Hellion opening with the Ravens, where at first he was a bit crazy with his initial 4 Hellions, killed a couple drones, and then the other Hellions, he just kept them around to push the creep back a bit.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see the builds he prepares, because we know HeRoMaRiNE comes in with, you know, builds, preparations, you know, figuring out what he wants to do. I feel like it's always tough when you play like Serral and Reynor though, because your best inspiration has to come from Clem, right? But it's so hard to recreate what Clem does with that chaos all over the map. You know, it's not just a build order that Clem uses, it's the entire game plan, the style that he plays. So I always feel like it's you don't take much inspiration from that, and then you've got to come up with your own things.
No, absolutely. You look at what Clem does and you're like, I see why it works, but that's incredibly hard to do. And I don't think that Gabe is the kind of player that should look at what Clem is doing and be like, I'm just going to do what Clem does. Gabe is still very good in his own ways, and he's very quick. He may not be as quick as Clem, but he's still very quick. But it helps a lot more to just do everything that you're comfortable with, when you know exactly when to do X, Y, or Z, than when you're trying to imitate somebody else that player, because then there are going to be these moments where like, now what? You can't be having it against Serral, because we know Serral, if he sees an opening, he is going to go for it. He will punish almost any mistake you're going to make.
So far, looking pretty good with the 3CC obviously setting up. So HeRoMaRiNE looking for the more macro-focused game. We are getting to that point where we're going to figure out exactly what we're going to do with the starport finishing. Tech Lab on the racks is right next to it, so maybe some potential for the Raven. The gas is increasing, and it's a possibility, Roddy.
I mean, like I said last time, he actually started off really well. It just went wrong a bit later, but up to that point, I don't really see any reason for him to completely switch it up. It's obviously funny because the map pool hasn't changed, and that best of 5 is not even that many weeks ago. It was the upper bracket finals of Europe in the lead up to this event. So we're probably going to see quite a few things that were somewhat similar of that series. But on that day, Serral didn't just look a bit better, Serral looked a lot better ever since those banelings connected in the first game. I'm kind of with Ben. Even Romanticide that Gabe won, you looked at that game, you're like, Serral was actually playing quite a bit better on Romanticide. Like, that could have very well been a 3-0.
Cloak has a bit of a fake out. He obviously trying to pretend you're doing something other than building the Raven, but he's going to have the Overlord alive for so long. You can see HeRoMaRiNE is a little upset about that, because now the Raven is seen, and that's some nice information for Serral.
It's like, it would have been nice if the Marine would have tried a little harder to pick up that Overlord just a bit quicker, but Not going to happen. Last time, obviously, Serral played Ling Bane Muda here with slightly later upgrades. We have a couple of Spore Crawlers going down, though. 3 Spore Crawlers.
Maybe he didn't check back.
Maybe he didn't see it, exactly. Maybe he just looked at it and he's like, I think this is... Well, he's going to see the Raven real soon anyway. I guess it's always nice to have a couple of Spores to deal with maybe a Liberator later on, but in this phase in the game, building 3 Spores is actually kind of pricey.
Yep, completely unnecessary for the scout that he had. Serral will just start the evolution chambers. He's going to drop a Roach Roaring as well. That's very different.
A couple of Lings show up at the third. HeRoMaRiNE is going to end up losing 1 SCV there. We already have a few Widow Mines in production too. Stim is more than halfway done. That is surprising. I've obviously seen Serral play Roaches on this map a couple of times, but I would not have called that in the beginning of the game, Waddy.
No, to me, I mean, Serral to me just isn't the kind of guy that needs to play Roaches necessarily, right? And, you know, when we saw him playing some ASS qualifiers on the Korean server, I'm like, okay, Roaches because he's playing the Korean server, right? You don't want to be playing Ling Bane, but here, you know, EU versus EU, I would not have called this at all, and just +1 missiles, +1 carapace, but send up for a big Roach attack, which, to be fair, might catch Gabe way off guard.
Yep, because obviously having Roaches and Ravagers against Widow Mines is pretty good. Against Roaches and Ravagers, you want to have tanks. I actually spoke quite a few times about HeRoMaRiNE's TVZ with Raynor, and Raynor is like, yeah, you don't want to play Roaches against Gabe, because Gabe is really good at doing nothing. He just sits there, and he maxes out with tanks and Marines, and he A-moves you with 2-2 upgrades, and there is nothing you can do. Obviously, if you don't have any tanks, then it becomes a bit more tricky, and HeRoMaRiNE still has no idea, right?
Yep, absolutely no clue what's going on just yet, as he's a little bit blind and just going to be seeing a few Roaches continuing up at the moment.
A few?
Yeah, quite a lot of Roaches on the way right now as we get this underway.
Taking a look at that factory, at this point there is still a reactor on that factory, which means HeRoMaRiNE still has no access to siege tanks, and it almost feels like that's a must. We are going to get a second factory that is going to connect to one of these tech labs, but it's going to take a little while. Serral's going to try to catch these Hellions, and he gets a pretty nice wraparound. Obviously, he will pay the price with quite a few links, but that's a beautiful cleanup. And at this point, I am still not sure if HeRoMaRiNE even knows that he's playing against Roaches.
Yeah, he's really unaware, I think, because dropping Marines on the map, etc. is not necessarily what you need to be doing when there's all of these Roaches building and getting ready to come at you very soon.
Yep, because you look at Serral's economy at this point, 68 drones is not really where you normally want to be, unless you just want to attack with a gazillion 1-1 Roaches. HeRoMaRiNE is going to see it. A lot of them are going to morph into Ravagers, but it's still Widow Mines on the production tab. And sure, if Serral messes up, Widow Mines can be nice, but Serral messing up is not something you want to rely on when you're playing an important TVZ.
No, absolutely not. This Widow Mine, the center goes down just before it gets to fire. And we are going to see these rocks getting cleared out as well. So able to pick those off and clearing the way up towards the third base. And we are going to start pushing on in. This does not look pretty.
No, this does not look pretty at all. HeRoMaRiNE is in a very awkward spot with a lot of bio units on the right side. Does land an anti-armor missile, but he's just going to tap out immediately. Had 1,000 minerals in the bank there too. Gabe completely stunned by the fact that Serral went for Roaches and Ravages here in the first game. That's a bit of a bummer.
Yeah, a bit of an unexpected start from Serral. I caught us off guard, caught Gabe off guard, and then Gabe still doesn't get the information he needs to deal with it for such a long time. Very, very unfortunate way for game 1 to get going.
Kudos, of course, to Serral for hiding it for as long as he did. That's not necessarily easy. It always goes two ways. Could HeRoMaRiNE have made a bigger effort on really trying to figure out what he's going up against? Sure. But Serral just did a marvelous job in making sure you always kind of say that the Hatchet Creep showed a lot of Zerglings. And a lot of Zerglings could be anything, right? Could just be Ling Bane Muda, could be Lings with double Evos at home. HeRoMaRiNE just had absolutely no clue. And maybe if all of his bio units are at least on top of that ramp, then you can start kiting a little bit, and you can be like, even if I lose 20 SCVs here, it's really not that bad because I'm playing against Roaches and Ravagers. But yeah, like this, there was almost no way.
Yep, rough first game for HeRoMaRiNE, and we are going to go into Oxide for game 2. At least this one's more likely to be his map pick, maybe his chance to get rolling a little easier. We'll see if he can make something happen and get off to not even a better start necessarily, just better information, you know, knowing what's
get off to a game.
Yeah, actually get into the mid game, right?
yeah. So let's start trading a little bit. Let's start killing some units, maybe get a little drop going somewhere. Last time they also played on Oxide, and Serral actually just did a phenomenal job on Oxide. There was this one moment where it felt that HeRoMaRiNE had a couple of scary move outs, a lot of Marines, a lot of tanks, but every single time, right before those tanks were able to siege up, Serral was already there. He was on top of all the units of Gabe over and over and over again. Gabe had a couple of Banshees patrolling for potential Bane run-bys. The moment he moves those Banshees away, the first Banelings start showing up. Picked off a lot of SCVs. I'm sure that's a game that's still fresh in the mind of HeRoMaRiNE. let's see if things go a little bit better for him this time around on Oxide.
Yep, as we go into the bottom left-hand side, our blue Zerg player from ENCE Esports is Serral.
And in the top right side, this man just can't seem to get things going when he goes up against the Finnish Phenom. Can he turn it around here on Oxide? Hailing from Germany, it is HeRoMaRinE.
Yeah, what do you think we might see in this game number 2?
I do think this is a good map to play Marine Tank. And now after HeRoMaRinE just went down against Roaches on 2K, he might just be thinking, I will absolutely 100% always play Marine Tank here. We'll see. I'm expecting Serral to probably go for double Evo before going up to Lair and just trying to get those Ling upgrades going ASAP. Or maybe at least be very heavy on the Lings for a long time. I feel like he's quite fond of that on this map, like many Zergs do.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a good possibility of something along those lines. I always feel a bit more comfortable for like HeRoMaRinE playing like Oxide against Serral because it just feels like there is a limited base count, right? And if he does get into that mid game and off to a good start, I feel like that's the sort of map HeRoMaRinE has a better chance to kind of take that later game on. You don't necessarily have to fight against Serral who can get completely out of control. You know, you can deny 6 base for a while and then be 5 base yourself against 6. It just seems so much more manageable.
Serral, of course, was playing in Group D in this tournament. We saw him in action yesterday, and it's safe to say that he looked damn good. Got a couple of 2Ls. Just kind of finish the job up and be like, all right, I'll see you guys in the playoffs. HeRoMaRinE finished as runner-up in his group much earlier this week. But making it into the playoffs is already, of course, an awesome achievement. Serral's a 2-time champ, by the way, of the season finals. Yeah, you don't really think about it because you think of Europe and you think of Clem always winning. And if Clem didn't win, it was Rainer winning, right? But Serral's actually won the season finals 2 out of the 3 times that he was in it because he obviously missed it once and this is the 5th time.
Yeah, no, it was always funny because it was like Serral would lose in Europe and he'd be like, yeah, but I'm getting my revenge now, right? And he would go all the way. And it was always that kind of cool little something that we saw happen. And it's why a lot of people always talk about Serral as well, was still kind of better against the Koreans maybe than like Clem, who stumbled and fell in a couple of those season finals, although obviously made it to the semi-finals a couple of times too, so can't be faulted too heavily as that Reaper gets annoying to start.
Yep, would be lovely for game to just get a little pick-off or 2 here just to get some momentum, a little feel-good, because you already, like, you go up against Serral and you know that you've done terrible against him, you know that your track record head-to-head is absolutely awful. You don't want to think about it, you're like, alright, he's still a StarCraft player, I'm a StarCraft 2 player, and I do think that Gabe believes that he can beat anyone if he plays his absolute best. He's very realistic, and he will always say, like, oh yeah, Rainer and Serral just butter. But that doesn't mean that there is no chance for him. There is always hope, and especially sometimes I think in the best of 3s, it's perhaps a bit more likely than a best of 5. But yeah, just need to get some momentum going, and he needs to start feeling like he is playing his A game.
Yeah, absolutely. As the Reaper just still kind of cruising around, wants to try and get that creep team if it can. Has a while until link speed is done, so really can stay on the map for a good long time. And that's exactly what he'll do for the moment. As we get once again that starport rolling, and we'll start to see what HeRoMaRinE wants to open with this time. I mean, no add-ons added just yet, so maybe just straight into like a Viking or a Liberator. Obviously, Viking first lines up with the gas, and then more Marine production. Do we potentially see an Armory further down the line here?
Could be. Maybe Gabe wants to be a little aggressive here. Serral has link speed finishing up. Other than that, he has not shown us anything yet. I believe Serral is still mining a bit of gas, but looking at how slow it goes up, I have the feeling that's a single drone on one of those extractors. So for Serral, it's all about the queens and links at this point. It's gonna be hard, of course, for Yona to get proper follow-up scouts the moment that the Viking is out. Viking into Liberator.
Yeah, I was just wondering, it took a while for the tech lab to start in that barracks, but it did get underway finally. Yeah, Viking Lib, so a pretty common way to play. Just usually you'd expect Stim to come down fairly quick with this, and I mean, Stim's going to start soon, just not super quick. Viking is figured out, but of course you don't know about the Liberator follow-up just yet as Serral, so that's something we'll see if you can find out at all at some point.
Yep, doesn't even necessarily know about the third, but I guess Serral will just assume that it's there and we'll keep a close eye. This is actually kind of nice for HeRoMaRinE. Gets a couple of shots off from the high ground through these rocks. Few links, everything matters, because this is still the only thing that Serral has. I mean, links and queens are great. We do have a lair on the way, by the way, so this is not one of these games where Serral is going to go for double evo before ever teching up. Does drop a Baneling nest, and with that quick lair, he's going to have relatively quick access to Baneling speed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just going to see our couple racks, engineering bays, all of this setting up. Serral just getting the confirmation about extra racks going down. Always nice to have, right? Just know the timings a little bit and just confirm it is bio, because in a blue moon you do sometimes see mech, not something I think HeRoMaRinE would pull out, but wasn't expecting roaches from Serral either last game.
No, neither was Gabe. Do have a Sport Crawler finishing up in the bottom of this natural, and that's going to make it a bit more tricky for this Liberator to really get in there. Could go a bit further towards the top, but that obviously makes it more exposed to the Queens too. And it is going to siege a bit. Does actually gets one drone there, maybe. Gets a Queen. Okay, that's
nice.
the start.
Yeah, it's definitely something, and obviously just takes a little while for this Sport to relocate. Gives the Lib plenty of time to get out of there, and of course that's one of the best parts about Liberators. If you can get them out, relocate them multiple times, that's when the damage really starts racking up a little bit. So good to see that, as otherwise Serral is pretty good on the map defending against those Hellions.
I think Serral's gonna drop a Hydra then, or where is he gonna go? Really just stay on Ling Bane forever and then even try to get Ultras out a bit later?
Yeah, I think with, at the moment, just Ling Bane for a little bit. Depends when he wants to take an extra hatchery. If he takes an extra hatch in the next 20 seconds, as the Lib is back, and that's some more drone kills.
Yeah, this is actually a good start. It may not seem like much, but it's really hard to get anything against Serral in general when you're playing this matchup. And HeRoMaRinE is actually getting a couple of little pickups here on the board. You don't want to lose your Liberator.
Oh,
it does
no.
go down. The tail end of all of that, but it was still somewhat decent. A bit of lost mining time, a Queen went down, a couple of drones went down, and HeRoMaRinE has not messed up with his Hellions in the center.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like for now it really is just going to be Ling Bane. And obviously the gas counts, points towards that as well. I do just worry a little bit because, again, usually if you're playing just Ling Bane, lava can be a problem. You need to make sure you've got the lava needed. So, again, needs to just keep those injects running. There is a hatchery going down. So that's the kind of macro hatch I was talking about. That necessity just to make this Ling Bane style really something you can work with.
Fun location, actually. He put it next to the third, I believe.
Yeah, kind of a weird place. Right now he's actually going to expand to the bottom of the map as well. So he's putting his money into hatcheries. But right now, I mean, this attack has 1-1 finishing and stuff. Well, Serral's, dropping 2 hatches. It's got some potential.
Yeah, but it's very important for HeRoMaRinE not to lose 12 SCVs to the first wave of Banelings. He knows that it's going to come, because this pretty much always happens in high-level CVT when the Zerg plays the way that Serral's currently playing. Those Banelings will be morphing at that base at 3 o'clock, and then they're going to try to wiggle their way through those depots. That's not a wall-off yet, by the looks of it. This Reaper is not doing what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, that might be a little bit rough indeed, as you do see. Marine stimming onto the creep, just the edge of it, just wanting to get that creep to spread pushed back as much as possible.
Banelings are going for it, and this is when it really hurts. We don't have a bunker, we don't have a Widow Mine. HeRoMaRinE is paying attention to the units in the center of the map. I said 12, it's 16 instead. It's just a bit too much. And HeRoMaRinE knows that you get all those depots, but it was not a wall-off. That was a lovely Widow Mine shot by the looks of it. Ooh, a lot of dead bodies on the floor. There is a Hydra Den, by the way.
Yeah, Hydra Den and Infestation Pit in sync, right? And that's kind of a fairly common follow-up, I suppose, after playing Ling Bane for a good while. To go into something which can set up the lurk isn't a bit as, yeah, Queen's on their own, but transfusing brilliantly. Serral kind of set up to fight and then backed away.
I think he was kind of afraid to run into the combination of Hellbats and Widow Mines, and I gotta say I love the Hellbat positioning there by Gabe, but Jonah did a phenomenal job there making sure he didn't lose any Queens. He's starting to float a little bit of money. He's gonna fire up 34 additional links. HeRoMaRinE has done a decent job in recovering from the amount of SCVs that he's lost. He's back to 59. It's still, it felt a little bit unnecessary, right? That is so much damage to take from something you know it's coming. He was clearly preparing for it, and it still found everything it was looking for. Banelings getting some decent connections in the center. A few of those Widow Mines are still alive, though.
Yep, definitely going to need some of those shots, but they're so far out of position, obviously just going to lift up and get out of there. With the most of this, he needs to split against these mines, and, well, I mean, he did an okay job of it in the end.
One more, right?
Well, one mine. It was on cooldown already. It was so close to getting off, but Serral is on top of it and cleaning it out. And, of course, he's now on his way to Hive, so time is ticking for Gabe, right, before Lurker Den is online, and we're up and running there.
I'm actually stunned. You look at the minimap, and you really feel that HeRoMaRinE has been on top of pushing the creep back, has been on top of trying to get close to those Queens, trying to pick off the Queens. You look at the minimap, it's like, geez Louise, there's still creep everywhere. Serral has done a phenomenal job in replacing all the tumors that has been picked up a couple of times. Does a really good job in splitting against these Widow Mines here. HeRoMaRinE needs to get way more units because Serral's Ling Bane count is overwhelming over here.
Yeah, absolutely. Serral positioning around the top side at 2-2. Is a little out of sync for HeRoMaRinE as well, so at least he'll have the +2 attack, but Armor trailing behind, and that's something which just a little sad to make some of these fights not as good as they maybe could be. Serral going to jump on this army, and Banes do connect before the lift up, and now you're going to have a bit of momentum to jump on this base, perhaps not going to get there before he decides to back it up. But yeah, I mean, this is great because Serral has been the aggressor and holding aggressive positions while the Lurker Den is coming down. It's on the way. I feel like that was maybe forgotten a little bit. It's not quite synced up with the Hive. Ooh, nice Widowmine, but well, Vipers are coming up at least as well.
Yep. Don't forget that Burrow is done, so we could potentially get a couple of Burrowed Banelings there. Well, Serral needs to be a little bit careful here. A couple of big Widowmine shots there, especially the one on the left. That was easily 20 Zerglings. Scan goes down, and this is amazing for HeRoMaRinE, because now you don't just know that you don't just get those Banelings, but now you also know that this is something you need to keep in the back of your mind. You know that you can't just step anywhere, because those Burrowed Banelings could be burrowed all across the map.
Yep. Yeah, having those Burrowed Banelings figured out is a good little something, as you do see. A couple of Banes is going forward and doing it well initially. Don't even mind those Widowmines. That's nice for Serral. A little cleanup as he does now have the first Hydras taken to the stage.
HeRoMaRinE is building 3 Widow Mines at a time. Does have Drilling Claws. Serral splits against the mines has been very good so far. Nice little on burrow there. Can that mine fire? Yes, it can, but it shoots at the Marines. Kind of a trader mine there. It actually did more friendly fire. HeRoMaRinE's army is getting seriously big, though. We're looking at 105 Terran army supply. It's mostly Marine mine, but that's pretty damn good if Serral doesn't have too many Lurkers out. Now, the Lurkers are actually going for Adaptive Talents before Seismic Spines. What do you make of that, Waddy?
Yeah, maybe just feels like it's a very quick, aggressive game. I guess it sort of suggests being more aggressive than defensive. Yeah, it's definitely a little bit odd as HeRoMaRinE pushes down his bottom right.
I feel like this is maybe the moment for Gabe to really make some magic happen. He still has quite a bit of a bigger army. +3 is more than halfway done. Some good splits there. The bottom saves a lot of the Marines. He knows about the Lurkers. Take a look, the units lost resource steps. Serral has lost 13,000 resources. HeRoMaRinE only 7,500. But of course, Serral has been mining a little bit more throughout the majority of this game.
That is a big resources lost graph already, though, right? Like, much bigger than usual. Like, right now, I'd say 3,000, 4,000, but 7,000, it's a little wild as we do jump on units once again. Widow Mines are going to go off. And we are going to see Serral once again backing down this ramp. He's got Lurkers, and again, being able to reposition quickly does go a long way. And now Seismic Spines on the way up to give you that range as well. Love Parasitic Bombs on the Medivacs, of course. Slowly chipping away at those is always going to be a favorable little something for you to get done.
I'm actually really surprised by HeRoMaRinE's army supply. Every single time you're like, man, he doesn't have like that much. I don't know if you should be here, as we do have a Widowmine connecting with a couple of Zerglings. Banelings will blow up the depots. And then you can see that the restover Baneling count is just so much lower. As HeRoMaRinE drops a few Marines on those leftover Banes too. Serral and his Lurkers do have the adaptive talents now, but with only 2 Vipers, and they just use some energy too. I don't know if I really like the idea of HeRoMaRinE like slowing down right now. I'd kind of love to see him just grab almost all of his units and really start pushing the issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Bioforce going to start pushing around. A couple Widow Mines still set up on this ramp. It's tough because there's so much creep, right? I feel like the creep has really been a great buffer for Serral in a lot of moments where he should have been in a lot more trouble.
This is cool.
Yeah, just one look, gonna walk in, cool burrow. I mean, even if you just force a scan at the end here, might be something at least. Obviously, in this case, HeRoMaRinE had units nearby, as top left is still not allowed to be taken either.
Even getting the hand shockwaves there for the girls. It's kind of funny. HeRoMaRinE just wants to make sure he can land those EMPs on those Vipers. The Viper count obviously not that high, still at 2. Lurker count currently at 9.
Yeah. No, it definitely helps, right? Having that little bit extra range. Well, don't need it if the Vipers just straight up die. Flying in there and Serral losing control of his Vipers a little bit.
And now the Liberators should really be able to shine and make some justice rain from above, if you ask me. HeRoMaRinE is still maxed out. A couple of Marauders going to soak up some shots. These Lurkers are here, but HeRoMaRinE, this is all there is. Like, it's hard to run into Lurkers, but you would feel if he comes in from maybe the bottom a little bit too, especially with Liberators assisting, these Lurkers should be in trouble. And I think Serral's just doing this because he needs to buy some time, realizing that after losing those Vipers, things could have been very, very dicey.
Yeah, I mean, HeRoMaRinE puts a lot of respect on those Lurkers as well. He did not want to go chasing them down. It was a little scary. As we do see, just going to re-engage here. Serral wants to push on up, and he's going to catch a couple of ghosts if they don't lift up, and one of them goes down, so does another. Lurkers now burrow on that right side. Army is clumped up, and HeRoMaRinE is going to plummet in supply.
Yep, now obviously that does mean that it's going to free up more supply for more Liberators and more ghosts. We don't have advanced ballistics yet, as HeRoMaRinE does pick up one of these Lurkers on the right side, but that looks scary for a split second, where you're like, oh, I don't know if it's a good fight. And then you see suddenly Gabe dropping to 150 for the first time in a long time. Serral has done such a good job in forcing most of the action in the center, or even on HeRoMaRiNE's side of the map. Throughout this entire game, Serral has lost 3 drones. I think that kind of says it all.
Yeah, there's just been nothing aggressive from HeRoMaRiNE all this time. Like, there's been move-outs, but he's never gotten himself somewhere really, really desirable, and that has been a problem for sure as he's trying to take this 5th base, which is Well, he's down on the right side now, but only an orbital, so if you can pull him top left, you can obviously just Ling run by the space and have a good time off the SCVs.
Even if that happens, I think at HeRoMaRinE at this point you gotta be like, alright, I'm clearly trying to make my army a bit better. I'm trying to get more goals, I'm trying to get more Liberators, maybe the advanced ballistics down the line. Let's not take a game-deciding fight if we don't have to. If it's on creep, and you do have a couple of Widowmines to fall back to, as one Liberator does get abducted. A couple of Ghosts are in trouble too. Oh, this is not looking all that great for HeRoMaRinE. Serral does lose a lot of supply too, but he kills the base, kills the Liberators. And just like that, Serral takes the 2-0 lead with 5,000 minerals in the bank there in the end. His economy just completely untouched throughout that entire game, Marty.
And that's what's scary. Like you said at one point as well, that creep spread was ridiculous. Now, obviously, denies Gabe from feeling comfortable to get further forward, to get on top of hatcheries and to deny economy, but you gotta do something. And that's why I think Gabe doesn't maybe split his army up enough, you could argue, right? It was always just in one place. And that's obviously a little bit problematic, because then if Serral can just get there, defend, slow you down. At the same time, you know, Clem, for example, would be somewhere else getting creep spread, and it's just that's how you chip away that Serral defense. It's tough, though.
I mean, at one point, I actually almost wish that Gabe would have had his entire army at one place, because Serral was clearly trying to buy some time for the extra lurk upgrades to finish up, maybe get some more spellcasters. It all started off with that first set of Banelings morphing on the right side. You know it's coming, HeRoMaRinE knew it's coming, but it still found 16 SCVs, and that's a little bit too much. Man, definitely all kudos to Serral for replacing that creep over and over and over again. I don't even think that Gabe did a bad job in trying to push it back or deny it. Serral was just always in the right place with his queens.
Yeah, really was. And a little bit of a misplay there for those couple of Vipers, but gotta like what he did around that, right? He said, right, you know, I need Vipers right now. Let's get my Lurkers aggressive and do something with them. And man, a lot of these Lurkers did a lot of damage in those choke points as well. Yeah, just Serral this game.
Really good usage here of the Vipers as well, of course, making sure that once the Liberators are gone, Widowmine's actually dealing some friendly fire too there on the Ghost. Love that Parasitic Bomb and all the Medivacs that clumped up. And it's starting to look very dire for Gabe once more against the man that just seems to always have his number.
What do you even change up at this point? I'm not 100% sure. Feels a little bit rough. What would you like to see different? Is it just all-round play, you know, making sure those SCVs don't go down? Is it as simple as that?
I mean, that's where it all starts, right? Whenever you try to analyze a game on why do you lose a game, you can look at that final fight and be like, oh, maybe Gabe should have indeed taken slightly more time to get that Ghost count up, get a little more energy on his Ghost, get a few more Liberators sieged up. Because you just said it, like Serral can now attack here, or we can maybe go for the other base because we don't have planetaries there and Gabe wasn't totally ready. But if you have some money in the bank, then maybe getting that base up and running ASAP is not the most important thing. It's a lot more important to get that Ghost count up to 10+, because then you can actually just win a fight. And even if you temporarily mine less, you are still mining more than enough to obviously max out and get the army where it wants to be. But I think it really goes back to the mid game. Like, you don't want to lose 16 SCVs if you only have to lose a couple. It's also painful when you see that he's building 7 depots and he just misses that tiny gap. That's what the Banelings go through, and then they find way more damage. Obviously, kudos to Serral again for not immediately going for it, because if there's nothing happening, then Gabe will still react quickly enough. But the armies were flirting with each other in the center of the map, and then Serral's like, oh, this is the moment to actually go for it. Yeah, I think it all starts there.
Alright, well, Lightshade for map number 3. Let's see if HeRoMaRinE can turn it around. It has been a little bit brutal so far. Game 1 was very quick. Game 2 was a little longer, but still commanding from Serral, as we currently have an incorrect host in the lobby, which is causing us just a little bit of downtime. I think the game was already started, and someone jumped out to let one of us into the game. But yeah, now they're struggling to get the host back. So just stuck for a moment or two as we hopefully get this started off.
Are you the host? Am I the host?
It's one of the admin accounts.
Oh, okay. We'll figure it out. It gives the players a little moment to think over everything that has been taking place so far as well. Makes me sad for Gabe. He had such a good run in the European DreamHack Masters, made it all the way to the upper bracket finals, did take a map of Serral, but he still finished top 3, which he does so often. And what goes for Bonnie obviously goes a little bit for Gabe too, right? They've been top contenders within their regions for so long, they just don't very often lift that trophy or ever. And you kind of hope that that fairy tale at least comes true once. Even if they may not be the best player in the world, it'd just be so cool to finally see them take the highest step on the podium. And Gabe's got a mountain to climb at this point.
Absolutely. Down 0-2 against Serral. It's not going to be easy from here, but one step at a time, one map at a time. Gotta start on Light Shade. We'll see if he has something up his sleeve.
It was kind of sad at one point when Serral was starting to reach Hive and they were taking some fights, and at that point Serral lost 5,000-6,000 resources more.
Yeah.
Gabe was maxed out, but the army that he was mostly fighting with was always like 20 Marines and a lot of medevacs, but that wasn't a maxed out Terran for sure. He left so many units behind for run-bys that were actually not happening at that point, and that actually just worked in favor of this man. The Finnish Phenom, already a 2-time champ of the season finals, wants to go for the hat-trick, representing ENCE. It is Serral.
Down in the bottom right-hand corner, we've got the red Terran player, HeRoMaRinE.
HeRoMaRinE lost against Vanya in one of the ESL Weekly Cups, the European edition, a couple of weeks ago, and he was quite vocal about just the lack of practice that he's been having in this matchup. We all know that Gabe loves to go for those late-night ladder sessions, and if you do that, you're basically playing against Gerald and Christiana 22 times.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was just kind of like, shouldn't happen, but just not enough TVZ practice. Now I can only imagine that getting ready for this tournament, hopefully Gabe has been able to squeeze in a couple of custom games. I know that he's been moving. It should be fine by now, but that's always still, of course, it's something that's a little bit stressful to go through. You want to make sure everything is comfortable in the way that you want it to be. Sometimes those things do take time, but hopefully for Gabe, he was able to get a little bit of custom game practice in.
Yeah, hope so. Like you say, it has been a couple of weeks at least, I think, maybe 2, 3. But hopefully is all settled down. Maybe it's time to summon the blessing from the apartment, Roddy. Maybe it's time to turn it on.
The apartment that used to belong to Chris the Legend, where so many top-tier SC2 players have played tournaments from. It's actually a fun little, cool community, wholesome story where we used to have a lot of StarCraft 2 tournaments in Cologne, but then obviously because there were so many things happening, a lot of these guys that travel to events are like, damn it, I have a clan war, or I have this tournament, I have that tournament, and then Chris, as the awesome community dude that he is, he's like, oh, you can play from my place, and before you know it, you've got MC over the floor, you've got Innovation over the floor, Rio and Phoenix, the other 2 old Korean dudes, they were there for a while, Scarlet, Heistam, super fun stuff.
Very fun indeed. Love the little backstories of StarCraft, you know? That's actually one I don't think I've heard before as well.
You know what's even cooler is that I got to know Chris because I went to get a Subway sandwich one day. And then I stood in the Subway and they were like, hi, are you the StarCraft guy? I'm like, yeah, that's me. And then we became really good friends. And then eventually all the pro gamers visited his apartment. It's funny how that works. If I didn't love Subway that much...
I was going to say, is this why you love Subway so much?
You laugh, but if I would not have gotten the Subway that day, Gabe would have never been living in that apartment right now, because Gabe didn't even know Chris before I knew Chris. Anyway, we'll talk about the TVZ here. We hope that things pick up for our German legend, as he's been dancing around on the edge of creep. Be really nice for Gabe just to get something going here.
Yeah, hope so. Hopefully he can... I mean, he got into the mid-game okay again. Hopefully do it without taking that first big kind of hit of SCVs and see what you can make of it from there as we get ourselves up and rolling. Now, this game, once again, 3CC, so he's very much so sticking to the same sort of style, at least for the very opening. You can obviously do lots of different variations of this. We already saw the Raven. We saw the last game, which was obviously no Raven. It was Viking into Liberator. And that almost seems like what we might be seeing here again. Viking at least starting up for the moment.
Yeah, I guess the start wasn't too bad. I mean, those were literally the only 3 drones he did end up killing with the Liberator. But you don't want to lose it, right? We often compliment the top-tier Terrans for their ability to keep units around for so long, and that's what makes Clem and Maru, because it's not just the Widowmine drop, it's the 2nd wave, it's the 3rd wave, and then they send it home as well, and then in the end you may get the mines, but you won't get the medevac. If you decide to go for Viking Liberator, you want to make sure you keep that Liberator around for a long time. Am I crazy, or are those barracks is a bit... No, it's fine. I was like, are they really? But they're not.
Yeah, just, I mean, I guess Stim starts instead of getting a Liberator this time, so just a little bit faster into the bio. We'll see if that can maybe give him a bit more momentum on the creep, because that was obviously, again, something we've mentioned once, and we'll mention it again because it was a big part of last game.
But sometimes I look at that and I'm like, oh man, the Terran, like, you should have just done a bit more about it. I don't think we can really fault the HeRoMaRinE for not trying. But I did like what you said. Sometimes it's not like the big armies in the center where you want to push the creep. It's the random 8 Marines that you split off, that you put in the bottom right side. Something you see Clem do. He throws down a scan, and then the moment that you push the creep there, and then maybe the Queens walk over to the bottom right side to renew those Krypton Wars, and that's when your army in the center of the map has some more success again by actually properly pushing back the creep, right? So maybe in that regard, HeRoMaRinE could have done slightly better, but I think it was mostly just Serral being great at being Serral and renewing the creep tumors over and over again.
And get behind that is our Hellions are going to get an active creep tumor here. That's trying to spread, make that 2, so already a nice little bit of extra creep canal already happening. As siege tanks right off the bat this time from HeRoMaRinE as well. Straight into those tanks, and Serral just loud about to finish. Bane Nest on the way, and of course, let's see if he wants to play any different to this game. So, Hellions are onto the natural, and that's going to be a good few drones. Getting 7, that's already good. We'll get one more, fuelings as well.
I don't hate it.
Yeah, I like 9 drones for this.
Yep, also just because it throws the build order of Serral off a little bit, right? And changes the momentum and changes the pace of the game. Now, of course, the downside of losing your Hellions here is that it does mean that Serral is going to get the creep going ASAP, and there's not too much you can do about it in the near future. But the moment that Stim is done, maybe HeRoMaRinE will feel confident enough with the first 2 medevacts to be out and about in the map again. I actually kind of like it, just to switch gears a little bit. We often know Gabe as the controlling TVZ player, right? Where just kind of drives around, wants to make sure he doesn't die into an all-in, and then he's going to be fine. But against Serral, you want to switch gears every now and then. I'm actually kind of happy to see that kind of stuff coming out of him.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot as extra barracks are coming through, and this first 1-1 push has the potential to be very, very dangerous. Ahead in the upgrades, okay, you'll be against Bane's people. You'll have some tanks to help you out. We'll see what can be done, and that's why we're going to try and focus on some of this crucible on the top side. Serral already has the 4th on his top side. Oh, no! Well, that hurts. That's a lot of your momentum already breaking down here.
This is the kind of stuff where I feel like we always see Clem punishing Serral. When Baneling speed is not ready yet, don't even think about it that a slow Baneling is going to neck with Marines. Now, of course, this was on the edge of creep, but that's still a little bit unfortunate. Not a game-ending mistake by any means. But you want to make sure that if there are little opportunities against someone like Serral, you need to capitalize on them, because he is Serral for a reason, and he doesn't really give you a lot of opportunities to pick off his units.
No, he really, really doesn't. You got to take every one that you can get. Do you think we see him move out with 1-1? I mean, it would seem likely, but I feel like usually you'd already be moving a little bit. That creep is crazy as well once more.
I don't know, maybe after Gabe lost a couple of Marines there, he's a bit too worried that if he does move out now, what if a few more Banelings will go into one of his mineral lines, right? You start second-guessing yourself, and you're having a best of 5 that's just not really going your way. And obviously we all know that in StarCraft 2 you can be indecisive. It's a nice scan by HeRoMaRinE, grabs all the creep tumors within the yellow circle.
Yep, nice to clean out a little bit on this bottom side at least, and maybe open up this access path for later in the game. But again, there's just not everything else going on at the same time. These Queens are going to take a very long walk around to the bottom of the map to replace that creep.
Yep, this is actually kind of risky what Serral's doing here, because Serral obviously doesn't have vision on the right side there. So imagine if there are 12 Marines standing there with Stim and a medevac. Yeah, sure, the Queens can heal each other for a little while, but that's not going to last very long against Marines with +1. Serral gets away with it.
And he does indeed. He's going to go for the same thing as last game. Hydrogen Infestation Pit in sync. So just getting started up onto what will be a hive and probably into lurkers fairly soon as well. Only thing I have to say last game was it felt like that lurker den was a bit late because the hive was done and the lurker den wasn't quite, but then he did go Vipers first, so we'll see if he goes for something similar. He's getting that burrow again as well, so just another tool in his arsenal.
Yep, that's something that we didn't even really see come into play last game. So had a couple of burrowed banelings, but HeRoMaRinE threw it on his scan, saw it. That's pretty much the last we saw of burrow. Besides the lurkers, of course, those were very successful.
yeah, they had a good few burrows, I gotta say. As that Widow Mine down here, Serral trying to set it off, hasn't done so far. That Widow Mine shot, my goodness, what? That was absolutely disgusting.
Oh my goodness.
There's another one.
Speaking of dirty, Waddy. well. Wow. I mean, those are the kind of shots that you're dreaming of. 103 Zerglings went down. At the same time, Gabe is now trying to keep up the momentum. There are a couple of Banelings, though. Can he leave 1 or 2 Marines behind, maybe, to soak up some Banes? The answer is no. We're already getting liberated. That gives me some Cure vibes, right? We've seen Cure do that a lot. Have a lot of success with it.
I love the Liberators as a transition for when the lurkers are first coming through. I'm gonna keep pushing forward here, HeRoMaRinE.
There are still 18 Banelings on the map, which I'm actually a bit shocked by, because it feels like everywhere I look, I've seen Banelings explode. There's still 9 Banelings morphing, still 17 Banes on the map. I don't even know where they are. It feels that HeRoMaRinE just got a couple of Dream connections on his Widow Mines, but Serral, he's still hanging in there. He's down 22 army supply down with the 2-2 upgrades finishing up for the Terran and maybe the Liberators. If these Libs can siege up in a good spot, that could very well be the momentum that HeRoMaRinE needs.
Yep, absolutely going to start sieging up here and there, and obviously with a concentrated push supported by Liberators, that could be very, very difficult for Serral to break as Gabe has a 4th base up, comfortably behind this. Hasn't taken worker damage this game either, so it's been much more comfortable for him. As we're going to see the Ling Bane coming through. And we are going to see him, Widow actually unburrowing before reburrowing here. And they are going to get new shots off.
Yeah, actually a couple of very good Baneling connections there, as they did a bit of damage to some of these Widow Mines too. HeRoMaRiNE's Marine count is a bit lower than you would like to see it. It's only 31 actually. He's got 8 Widow Mines, 9 medevacs. There are 9 medevacs for 31 Marines.
Yep. I mean, that's a lot of healing potential as we step forward again. Widow Mines are going to get really far forward here. I don't know if he's almost gone too far forward because they all get blown up instantly. They never even had a chance to go off. One Widow Mine top side just trailing onto a couple units, nothing major. And now the lurkers are here. And this is where HeRoMaRiNE maybe needs to switch up his momentum a little bit, or how he wants to approach this. I mean, there's still just one lip here. I really thought there was going to be more.
Yep, I thought there'd be more too. Serral's even thinking of potentially attacking the planetary, where we do have a tank, I believe, that's been left behind. HeRoMaRiNE goes very deep onto creep. It's still mostly Widow Mines and medevacs here. There are a couple of Marines. Let's take a look at that planetary fortress of HeRoMaRiNE. Can he keep it alive? Can we get some shots up on the Banelings? 12 SCVs go down, 14 SCVs, and the planetary goes down too. Now, obviously, this is kind of expensive, and Serral needs to be a little bit careful that he does have enough units at home to deal with the counterattack, but needless to say, that was a success for the Finnish Phenom.
Even more painful, there's just no 4th CC on the way, right? Or no extra CC on the way to replace that quickly, so that is a long-term kind of damage dealt from Serral. I don't know what HeRoMaRiNE's going to do. He's actually floating his main base elsewhere, I believe, so that ain't pretty.
I don't hate it. I feel like this is the kind of push where right now, at this moment, Serral's not totally yet where he wants to be, right? The Vipers don't have all the energy yet. The amount of Lurkers is not that scary. The Lurkers don't have all their upgrades yet. So I think slowing the game down would be a mistake. I think it's pedal to the metal. Let's hope you keep a lot of bio units alive before +3 is done.
We're going to go straight on through the Banelings, trying to get those Marines. They are going up a ramp off creep as well, though, and they will have to turn it around for the moment. This is where HeRoMaRiNE might just want to keep on pushing. The Liberators sieging, but he backs it up. He's given himself a moment or two. Now finally his +3 attack will be done as well. This is just a lurker being annoying here as well. And that's the sort of thing that slows HeRoMaRiNE down. And over here, how annoying.
Yep, very annoying. But at least that's going to give Gabe time for +3. The Vipers are out there. We see an abduct. And HeRoMaRiNE, despite the fact that he had 173 supply, will just tap out. Feels like he's too far behind. Too much